All right, well, with that, let's call up our first panel. Dale Kramer, Cheryl Johnson, Dick Levine, and Jennifer Rabb. Groundhog Day. I remember a panel like this not too long ago. I guess we'll go ladies first if you're ready. Cheryl, if you're ready, we'd be happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm Cheryl Johnson. I'm the Galveston County Tax Assessor Collector, and I've been in that position for 14 years. And I know nearly every single one of you, including Senator Paxton, so it's good to see y'all. I'm an Aggie mom and also an Aggie mother-in-law, but I'm also a Cougar parent or a mother. So if I did not acknowledge that, then I'd be leaving out one of my children. I do greatly appreciate the opportunity to testify on and behalf and for this necessary and long overdue legislative proposal. This bill does address most, if not every single one of the objections that were voiced over 2 years ago. The small taxing units are addressed. That component involving the sales tax brings some people into it that might not have been, but I think that's great. It recognizes that revenue. So you're taking care of those very small cities and governments, which I think is wonderful. The 5-year disaster provision is more than adequate. It took us a full 5 years to recover from Hurricane Ike, and so that is incredibly generous, so thank you for that. Although the rate adoption period is compressed, we will make it work, and for those exceeding the rollback rate, it is totally doable. And I love, too, that you're addressing the state's responsibility for school funding, so this was an incredible piece of legislation. I also, as a small side, greatly appreciate that a property owner will no longer pay for documents when they go to protest their value. That's a small but important thing for our local citizens. That $15 slows people down sometimes. More than anything, I support the most local control of all included in this bill. That's the mandatory November elections where the voters will decide. These elections have the highest voter participation and turnout, and any official or government that lacks confidence in their voters shouldn't have unfettered control over the taxpayers' money. This bill will inhibit excessive government spending. Now, the other thing I would suggest for those governments that have elections in May and they're going to be faced with this in November, they can move their elections to November and just do them all at the same time. That will save a lot of money so we can remove that expense.
Here.
I do not believe that you're tying anybody's hands. I do believe that the ability to raise fees, the cities still have an ability to raise fees. In my own city, just this very week, they doubled the impact fees and they went up on our water rates over 30%. That's $1.5 million that's going to come directly out of the pocket of 13,000 of my residents, and I think that is awful. But so it's not like when you limit their property taxes that they're not going to be able to have other money. I am concerned. My only opposition to this bill is that you don't move forward the 2.5% this year. If there's any way possible that you can move it forward, because I can promise you, in my own city council, they were talking about, well, we've got to hurry up and increase the tax rate before the legislature does something to us. So if you do not move this 2.5 component only forward this year, I can promise you that there's just going to be it's just going to be an awful situation this fall for taxpayers.
We'll be asking some people about that later today.
Good. I have some handouts. I'm not going to go through them. I wanted you to show that only 12 of the 58 governments in Galveston County will be affected. That's less than 21%. My school districts, of course, 4 of my 13 cities, the county, and the College of the Mainland. And what's interesting too is College of the Mainland has done an incredible job of keeping their taxes down, adopting the effective rate. I also included the component to show you how I took the city rate and the source of that data in adding that to the property tax revenue so that you can see how that's added. And then finally, our 5-year history, so you can see how some of my governments have done. We've done a good job in Galveston. I think having me as their tax assessor and coming before y'all and you including me in this has really helped everybody have a bit of a conscience. I did calculate Well, and I have no political correctness, I'm sorry. I did calculate one of my cities, and the rollback rate would have been lowered by 3 cents. I do not think that that would have totally buried that city, especially since they have other options. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I'm hopeful this will pass swiftly through this legislative session so that you can move on to the other very, very important business of the state.
And Tax Assessor Johnson, you make some really great points, and you always bring great data to this. And you're right, that city can afford a 3-penny reduction in their rate because that's what's called measurable tax relief for home and business owners. Now, you make a great point here about the lack of people attending the tax rate hearings.
Yes.
Okay. But the number of protests. Okay. And I believe, as a I was a tax assessor like you were, and that individuals feel they have control over the value of their home, and they also remember what they bought it for.
Right.
Just like this morning, I remember exactly what I bought and sold my first home for. Okay, but coming to the tax rate hearings is very difficult. It's also very intimidating, especially when you have 9 lines of taxes to make 9 hearings. Would you like to?
I voluntarily posted on my website the public hearing notices of every single one of my governments. So I'm not going to have a problem accomplishing that portion of this bill because I'm already doing it. I found when I came to testify before this committee, and I picked Santa Fe as the taxing area that I wanted to look at, and it has the most number of governments, 8 or 9 different governments, I think 8. But it took me phone calls and research and about 6 to 8 hours just to find out when those public hearings had been held for those 8 governments. And if it was hard for me and I knew who to call, I can't imagine what it would be for a mother and a father with children coming home from work, trying to feed their kids, and then trying to figure out, and then how do they testify at a meeting at 8 a.m. and one at 7 p.m. and one's Monday, one's Tuesday, one's Thursday. The county is on Mondays at 9:30. People can't attend these. So we do try and put it out there to make it easy for them.
Thank you. Questions for Tax Assessor Johnson?
I just have one personal question. Did you get my tax payments, by the way?
Yes, sir, I did.
You can still slap a penalty on them as of February 1st. Thank you for your testimony and for your continued testimony and always for the great facts that you bring to the committee.
You're welcome.
Thank you.